Boris Johnson resigns. Brittany Griner pleads guilty. The EPA and the Supreme Court. Oh, but first, among many things that we're going to talk about on this Saturday, July 9th, civil rights fame attorney Ben Crump was in Baltimore on Wednesday, and it's all about educational malpractice. He joined the lawsuit suing the Baltimore City Schools. Take a listen.
The lawsuit is asking a judge to intervene on behalf of taxpayers and have Baltimore City Public Schools implement reforms. And with Ben Crump now joining the lawsuit, they hope that could mean real change. The building blocks for life often start at a young age.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Learning your ABCs to read, write, and spell your name.
M, E, S, F, I, A, H.
Their skills, 3-year-old Messiah is already mastering.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P.
Skills his grandmother says her 19-year-old son, Kyrie, still struggles with.
He's 19 years old, and he can barely spell his name, first or last name. He can't write his name.
Nicole McDonald says Baltimore City Schools failed Kyrie.
It makes you feel hopeless. In a sense, it kind of feels like the generations are dying.
It's why she found herself here today at a press conference where civil rights pioneer Ben Crump announced he's joining a lawsuit to hold Baltimore City Schools accountable.
I said I could not afford to stand on the sideline and not try to make the system be more accountable to us, especially our children.
He's coming on to the lawsuit led by parents just like Nicole, Giovanni and Shawanda Patterson. It accuses Baltimore City of forcing taxpayers to fund a school system that underperforms and has a history of grade changing and inflated enrollment numbers.
If we can somehow get everybody to the table here in Baltimore and be transparent and talk about how we can make it better for all of our children, then maybe we can do it in other cities across America.
This comes weeks after the Maryland Inspector General for Education confirmed more than 12,000 failing grades were falsely changed to passing in Baltimore City schools over a 5-year span. That report was launched after a Project Baltimore investigation and now has many calling for criminal charges.
When they don't have a good education, the opportunities are few and minimal. And the jail cell is staring them right in the face.
With a big name like Crump now on the team, taking on an even bigger system, McDonald hopes for real change.
I pray. I really pray, because I don't know what else needs to be done.
And a brighter future for not just her grandson, but all the children in Baltimore City schools, so they have those building blocks they need.
This is bigger than us.
For a successful life.
Know my ABCs. Last time blown shoes sang with me.
That was great. Nice.
The lawsuit is not seeking money, but rather oversight over the Baltimore City public school system. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Gabriella, from Young Voices, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think the Baltimore City school system could benefit from an injection of school choice policies. It sounds very much that the students are being failed by the administrators, parents are being failed by the Baltimore City public school system, and that's why you see parents getting involved in education, demanding transparency, whether they're running for school board or filing lawsuits to demand accountability.
And Gabriella, I think what is often lost in this debate is what happens when they're not educated. The sexual trafficking, the prostitution, the crime, the homicide, no real self-esteem, no real skills that contribute anything to society. And when you don't have real skills that contribute, then you resort to drugs, guns, violence, all the things that Americans are seeing firsthand that are totally disrupting and destroying countries all across, communities all across America.
Absolutely, and an education is the first step for success throughout much of the country, regardless of what zip code you live in, what state you live in. And if students cannot safely go to school and they cannot become prepared for arithmetic, learning the basics to prepare them for life beyond schooling. It's a travesty, and keeping kids trapped in these failing schools is a disservice to the kids of Baltimore and setting them up for disaster going forward. And that's why, like I mentioned earlier, you're seeing parents getting involved, demanding that there's accountability, there's transparency, and that the dollars follow the students to send them to better schools, or to perhaps reform existing schools that are underperforming or vastly failing the students that they're serving. And that's why you see people here in Virginia, and I bet across the country as well, demanding better accountability and reforms across schools, because they are underserving students.
You know, Gabrielle, here at home, the party is not trying to hide their discontent with the president and the fact that he's causing them so much bloodshed in all the elections that have taken place so far in these different midterms across the country. Obviously, there are minefields for President Biden going overseas and what he negotiates, because he seems determined not to alienate the progressive wing of his party. How does he navigate it all?
He's proving to have a difficult time navigating all the different challenges, ranging from inflation to exhausting the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to dealing with intra-party fighting in the Democratic side. And if he doesn't have a cohesive message, and he's lost the trust of people within his own party, and you even see staff members of his start to leave in droves, much of his communications staff is no longer there. Only one of the original women who were tapped to join his communications team remains. All the rest have left. So if you have your communications arm leaving, you have greater distrust brewing within your own party, and you're going abroad and you're not addressing these problems at home, you're going to be perceived as a weak leader. So I don't know how he can overcome these challenges.
How does he continue to confront the housing crisis that is upon us? Inflation continues to rise. There's very little hope that he gets from the economy. What can give him an advantage between now and November? Gabriella?
If he moderates his tone and he starts to work with Republicans on meaningful bipartisan legislation, or perhaps peeling back on some of the extreme environmental policies that he's pursued, supporting lower taxes, decreasing spending, perhaps he can build up confidence instead of obviously dividing the country more, and actually one way bringing people together with disapproval of how he is running the country.
Mentioning Ukraine, you know, with all the massacres and all the other crises that Americans are facing here at home, there's very little about the Russian-Ukraine crisis compared to what it was at the beginning. Just where are we? And it seems as though there is still no ceasefire in sight. Gabriella, do you think the United States will commit more billions of dollars to the humanitarian crisis?
It looks to be the case. There's discussions that are underway, but the American people have concerns if those monies are going to go directly to war efforts. That's a big concern. But we also have to look a little bit beyond Ukraine. Russia has machinations in Kaliningrad, which borders Lithuania. They've been trying to threaten Article 5 countries like Lithuania, where my family actually hails from. And we have to worry even beyond that because of Putin's ambitions to reassert itself more prominently in countries it illegally occupied last century. But we will likely see more money appropriated. It just is a matter of, is it going to be stewarded well? And especially with kind of this displeasure now we're seeing among the American public, unfortunately, about whether or not this conflict will end soon. But I still think there is an appetite for supporting Ukraine prevailing over Russia, given their aggressive tendencies.
Gabrielle, I want to thank you and Attorney Patillo so much for joining us. I appreciate your insights. Bruce will stay with us. Marcia Dyson and others will join us at the return following these breaks.